Okay, so I'm just going to do these monitoring progress questions so you guys can check your answers. So for number 1, we have 8x squared minus 56x plus 48. So if we're looking between 8, 56, and 48, we can tell that we have a GCF of 8, right? 8 goes into each one of those. So if we pull out an 8, we're going to be left with x squared minus 7x plus 6. So now we can just factor this one with smaller numbers, and then we don't have to worry about the big numbers. So if we're factoring x squared minus 7x plus 6, our a is going to be 1, b is negative 7, c is 6, and then we do a times c, so we're doing 1 times 6. I'm going to find two things that multiply to 6 and add to negative 7. So that's going to be negative 1 and negative 6, right? Those will multiply to a positive 6 and add up to a negative 7. So when we make our box, we're going to have 8x squared, our a term in the first box, or sorry, just x squared because we took out our GCF, and then 6, our c term in the last box, and then we're going to have negative x and negative 6x in our two remaining boxes from our numbers that we found. Now, if we look for our GCFs, we know that between x squared and negative 6x, we can pull out an x, and we need to do x times x to get x squared, x times negative 1 to get negative x, and then to get 6, we're going to do negative 1 times negative 6. So our answer for this is x minus 1 times x minus 6, and then we're also going to multiply by 8 from that GCF that we pulled out. So that's your final answer for number 1. Okay, so for number 4, we have 3x squared minus 14x plus 8. So on this one, let's check for our GCF, which we do not have. There's no GCF. So then we want to go to finding a, b, and c. So our a is going to be 3, b is negative 14, and c is 8. So when we multiply a times c, that's doing 3 times 8, which gives us 24. So this means we're looking for factors of 24 that add up to negative 14. So if they're going to add up to a negative number but multiply to a positive number, that means both of our terms need to be negative. So if we think of some factors of 24, we could have negative 1 times negative 24, negative 2 times negative 12, negative 3 times negative 8, negative 4 times negative 6. So which one of these is going to add up to negative 14? Well, it's going to be negative 2 plus negative 12, right? That'll be negative 14. So when we make our box, we're going to have our 3x squared, our a term in the first box, 8 in the last box, our c term, and then b we're going to split up to negative 2x and negative 12x. Okay, so if we look between 3x squared and negative 12x, they both have an x in common. And then they actually both also have a 3 in common, right? 3 goes into 3 and negative 12. So if that side's 3x, then our top side is going to be x. If that side's x, we're going to get a negative 2 down here to get that negative 2x. If that's negative 2, to get 8, we need to have a negative 4. And then you can double check your last box to see if you get negative 12x, which you do. So our answer is going to be 3x minus 2 times x minus 4. All right, and then we have one more question, number 6. That one is 6x squared plus x minus 12. So we need to check for GCF, which there is none, right? Not between 6, 12, and negative 12. And then our a will be 6, b is going to be 1, and c will be negative 12. So when we do a times c, we're doing 6 times negative 12, which will give us negative 72. So when you're making your table, we need things that multiply to negative 72, but we want them to add up to 1. That's our B value. Now, there's a few things that multiply to negative 72, but the one we're looking for is negative 8 times 9. Negative 8 times 9 will multiply to 72, and negative 8 plus 9 will be 1. So when we make our box, we're going to have 6x squared minus 12. And then in our two boxes left, we have negative 8x and 9x. Okay, so if we look between 6x squared and 9x, they both have a 3x in common. Then that would make our top side 2x, right, to get the 6x squared. If that side's 2x, we would need a negative 4 to get negative 8x. If that's negative 4, we would need 3 to get negative 12x. Double check our last box. Is 3x times 3 9x? Yeah, so our final answer is 3x minus 4 times 2x plus 3. All right, and that's it for the monitoring progress questions.